Today we're going to show you how to rebuild a King 2.5 double bypass shock. The stuff I'm going to show you today is going to be, you could use on a 2.0, a 3.0, a non-bypass, bypass, smooth body. It's all the same equipment, the same way to do it. So first thing you do is you start by letting the nitrogen out of the shock. We got the nitrogen let out. All right, now once you get this Allen head screw loose, you can go ahead and loosen your dust cap. And go ahead and loosen it and take it off. So now it gains access to the snap ring that we have inside. We got to push the seal head down just a little bit to get the snap ring out. And once we remove the snap ring, we'll go ahead and we're going to pull this shaft up. Okay, once you get the snap ring out of here, we can go ahead and take the seal head out. Do it slowly. You're going to lose a little bit of oil, which is fine. Go ahead and get that out of there. And set this part on the table. We're going to go ahead and remove this body. And at this point, if you're changing the oil, you go ahead and dump this oil out. The next thing we're going to do is go ahead and loosen the nut on the end of the shaft. And we're going to take the actual compression and rebound shims off the piston. Just remember how you take these off, you put them right back on the same way. This is the seal head. This is what we're going to be rebuilding today. We're going to change all the O-rings out and all the plastic pieces inside. We're going to go ahead and lay our shims out. The top shims are the rebound shims, which I'm going to lay out right here. Make sure you have the actual piston sitting the right way. And these are the compression shims we're going to lay out over here. What we're going to do is we're going to mic these to see what thousandths they are, which is going to determine your compression and your rebound dampening in your shock. All right, so we just replaced the seal and the dust wiper seal. This is how it looks like when it's out of the shock. We just replaced it in there. That's what usually, it just wipes and cleans the shock shaft as it goes back into the actual body of the shock. So now we're going to check the shims. These were the rebound shims. We're going to check on these ones. These are saying they're 12 thousandths. 12 thousandths. So I'm going to say all these are 12 thousandths right now on the rebound shims. Here's the compression shims. And these ones are 15 thousandths. So if you, at this point, if you're going to change the actual valving in your shock, you would you'd buy the shims. They have the different thicknesses, the different widths, and you just stack them to change your valving. All right, what we're going to do is start putting the shock shaft back together. We're going to go ahead and put our dust cap on first. Slide that down. We're going to go ahead and put our actual seal head on there. We changed all the O-rings and bushings. And our shock spacer. And here's your piston with a compression rebound shims. Put the rate plate on. Then we actually have compression shims. You're going to put on smallest to biggest first. Then your piston. And then the rebound shims from biggest to smallest on top with the washer. Go ahead and put your spacer on, and then your nut. So go ahead and we're going to tighten this nut down just snug. You don't want to take no impact or anything to this, just a snug fit's fine. And we're going to go ahead and the next step is we're going to put the body back into the vise, fill it with oil, and then put the shock back together. What we're going to do now is fill the shock body up with shock oil. And you want to fill it up about 1 inch from the top. It's about 1 inch from the top. And since this is the only extra step that we have to do since the bypass shock, is we have to take it back out of the vise and put my hand over it and flip it upside down to get all the air bubbles out of the shock. So what I do is I just put my hand over it. If you tap it upside down, so the oil doesn't come out, you could actually feel the air bubbles coming out of the bypass tubes. And once it stops, then you know you got all the air out. So I'm going to go ahead and put it back in the vise. And what you want to do is you want to recheck to see if the oil level is correct before you start putting the shock back together. What you want to do is make sure the oil is about 1 inch from where the snap ring line is. So we check that first, and it's right. We're going to go ahead and put the shock shaft in. You want to go slow. You're going to lose a little bit of oil, which is fine. You can see it a little bit squirting out, which is getting all the air bubbles out right now. You want to push this seal head down past the O-ring, just enough so you can get this snap ring back in it. Like I said, a little bit of oil that comes out is fine. You're just getting rid of the air. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to put the snap ring back in it. Put it back in the groove. And then check this. You're going to want to pull this shock back up. And you heard that. The snap ring just locked in. Push your dust cap down and start tightening it. And this dust cap only has to be snug. It doesn't have to be too crazy. Sometimes it will keep spinning because there's no pressure on it. You could do it once you put nitrogen in it and finally tighten it, but there you go, it's snug. You go ahead and just tighten your Allen screw all the way down. Seal that off. And to make sure that this shock is working properly, we're going to go ahead and we're going to push this shock shaft down and compress it all the way. All right, what I'm going to do now is go ahead and hit this with a little bit of nitrogen. And this is going to show you if the shock's working correctly or not. The piston's going to come all the way out. Now that the shock shaft came all the way out, since we just put nitrogen to it, we know everything inside is correct and everything's working properly. And this pretty much concludes the how-to video on how to rebuild a 2.5 King double bypass shock.